Talk Station 630 KHOW.
Yesterday, when I mentioned to you that Colorado State Senate Minority Leader Chris Holbert, meaning the leader of the Republicans in the state Senate here, when I told you that Chris was going to be in studio with me, I said I wondered if he was going to look like he had tire tracks on him or more like a pancake, like a steamroller had gone over him. You look about the same as the last time I saw you, except you're sitting there with your arms crossed, and you've got this look about you of frustration, maybe, which I don't blame you for. As I watch what's going on in the state legislature, we will get into some details of specific bills, but one thing that I found quite interesting, just in a tactical sense, was last time you were in, or the time before, or both, you said that unlike the federal Senate, the tools that the state Senate minority has at your disposal to try to force the majority to behave or slow down or anything like that are very, very limited.
Yes, sir.
So you seem to have found one, which is within the rules of the Senate, you can ask that bills be read aloud.
Yes, that's actually in our state constitution. You can find that online at LexisNexis. You can do a web search and find the Colorado Constitution and Colorado statutes online. If you go to the Colorado Constitution into Article 5, which has nothing to do with the Convention of States, that's the federal constitution. But in our state constitution, Article 5 defines what is termed there as the legislative department. I would say the legislative branch. But if you go into Article 5 in the legislative department, it does say there that bills shall be read at length on 2 different days. And in our process, that's when second and third reading take place. First reading is when a bill is introduced. Second and third reading or when the bill comes back out of committee into the floor. If it does, then on second reading we have debate. Third reading is the final vote. And the Constitution says that every bill shall be read at length on those 2 occasions, separate days. But with unanimous consent of the body, 35 senators or 65 representatives, we can dispense with that and just read the title, the number, the bill sponsors, and then get on to debate, assuming that we have read the bill and we know what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Let me just ask you to pause there. This is going to be a stupid question, but unanimous consent means what it sounds like, right? If one single member of the body objects, then it can't happen?
That would be the opposite. So yesterday I objected to unanimous consent of the motion to dispense with the reading of the journal. So if 34 senators say yes and 1 say no, says no, we have the journal read at length. That's in the Senate rules. But back to the Constitution, we generally don't read bills all the way through. But if we want them to, it just takes 1 to say, I want it read at length. And Senator Cook did that Monday morning.
And Senator Cook did that on a bill that we're not talking about very much, not an especially controversial bill, but a very, very long bill. 2,023
pages. It is by far the longest bill I've seen in my 9 sessions in the legislature.
And for the record, no bill that's 2,000 pages long should ever be allowed in the legislature. I mean that absolutely seriously, because there's no way you guys can know what's in it. But anyway, so John said, we need to read this. They started reading it, and then the Democrats got frustrated, and they thought they had a clever idea, which was
to have 5 different laptop computers using software, loading in the language of the bill, 5 different segments of the bill, dividing that up, and then having each computer start to read that segment simultaneously. As I understand, that's the system that was used. And then I've heard it described as 625 words a minute, 650 words a minute. I don't know that I can quantify that, but each computer, each laptop was reading its segment of the bill at a speed to where I could not hear individual words. And with the collective 5 computers doing this at the same time, each at a different microphone, it sounded to me like just clicks and pops. It might sound like something if you sped up a cassette tape back in the old days or something, or a reel-to-reel, maybe even playing it backwards. It wasn't understandable. There was nothing that could be comprehended.
So you took this to court, and what happened?
Well, before that, staff went and talked to Senate staff and asked if the machines could be turned down to at least a level to where we could understand, recognize individual words, hear things. Listening to 5 different machines read at a comprehensible pace would be a challenge, but the speed was so far that no one could really, at least I could not, comprehend individual words. And staff was told, no, this is what the president had instructed or supported. This decision, I think, is shared between the president of the Senate as the presiding officer and the secretary of the Senate, who works with the president to manage the workings of the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And then staff reported back to me that the secretary of the Senate had instructed that I should go talk to the president. So when I went to talk to the president, I was able to meet with him and asked him on a couple of occasions, would you be willing to slow down the machines to where we could understand what's being read? And I was told twice no. And then I asked once again, and he said that he would talk with the secretary. But after he talked with the secretary, I assumed that he did. The speed did not slow down. So Senator Bob Gardner is an attorney. He's the only attorney in our caucus, but he came to me and said, I think there's a constitutional question here. Bob had read through the statute books and specifically the state constitution in Article 5, and he was pointing back to 1890, and there was actually one or more bills that were nullified because a member apparently had asked for something to be read at length and that wasn't done. And the court ruled that if the Constitution wasn't honored, that bill or bills, I'm not sure if there was more than one, were not constitutional and they were nullified.
Mm-hmm.
And Senator Gardner had suggested, I think we have a legitimate point here that if we look at Mason's rules, and for those who haven't heard of Mason's rules, Robert's rules of order, Mr. Roberts wrote rules, and so did Mr. Mason. So it's not about Mason's organization. The Senate uses Mason's rules, and we went to Section 20, and we looked at what is required under Mason's rules, which dictate anything that isn't specifically spelled out in our Senate rules, which are based on Mason rules. And really, substantial compliance is what we found, that if there's something in a constitution, a state constitution, for instance, that is required, that substantial compliance is the standard that we need to meet in order to honor the Constitution. And that was the basis of the legal challenge.
So let's just move through this story quickly, because I want to get to some other things. So you took it to Denver District Court, and they ruled in your favor, at least for now.
Surprisingly, just a few hours, the same day, the attorney who filed this for us said that it was very unlikely we would see this in one day, but we did.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge agreed that with our claim, with our request, and issued a temporary restraining order so that the president and the secretary cannot use those machines at that speed. I'm not sure.
Why are they allowed to use more than one machine at a time?
I don't know.
Would they be allowed to have 3 or 4 or 5 people stand up in the Senate and read different sections of the bill at the same time?
I've seen that happen, but at a pace that was comprehensible.
Okay, so theoretically, they might be allowed to use multiple computers and break a bill up into multiple sections as long as the computers were playing at a slow enough speed.
I think that's at least a possibility.
So
and that's what I asked the president the day before.
So clearly part of what's going on here, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me clearly part of what's going on here is that the Democrats are trying to jam through the entire left-wing agenda in a matter of a few days and fast-tracking these super important bills, drop them on a Friday and have a first hearing on Tuesday. It's quite amazing. And I think part of their strategy is to do it before the opposition can even organize. And I think part of what you guys are trying to do is to say, well, you got to slow down here, at least give the public an opportunity to know what you're doing, even though you're going to do it anyway. So now that you've gotten something in place that's probably going to slow them down, unless you guys give unanimous consent to dispense with the reading, I would think it would give you a little bit of negotiating leverage with them to say, okay, let's negotiate this or that about this or that bill, and then, we'll give unanimous consent to dispense with reading of something. Am I kind of on track, or are you going to?
I think you're very much on track. We saw that last night with Senate Bill 181, which is the oil and gas bill. I know the governor's, or I was told the governor's staff was very involved in discussions with representatives of the industry, groups, advocates for the bill, against the bill, and then, of course, House and I believe Speaker Becker is the sponsor of the bill. I heard her name mentioned a few times, whether she was supporting proposed amendments. Late in the evening, we had a series of amendments that we were presented as having the support, maybe reluctant support of the governor's office and the reluctant support of industry. I think all parties finally came to the table and found some level of compromise, and those amendments were adopted. So as we move forward, what I'm asking the majority is allow us our voice, and I'm asking advocates who are frustrated with how fast this process is and want these bills stopped. This is a repeat of prior shows, but we don't have filibuster. We can't deny them quorum requirements. I know in Texas and Wisconsin the minority shut down the process, but our Constitution doesn't allow that. The one thing that the minority can do is have bills read at length. And typically when that's been used in the past, the majority would let that go for 10 or 15 minutes or an hour and then come ask, let's talk. What's it going to take? Mm-hmm. And that's what we were after. It was perplexing when Senator Cook asked for the bill to be read at length. No one from the majority came and said, "Hey, let's talk. What's this going to take?"
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Astounded.
Yeah, I'm not astounded at all. They have no interest in anything you have to say.
I can see from the outside that perspective could be appropriate or valid.
I know that these guys are your colleagues, and and there's a picture of you and Leroy Garcia smiling together in the Denver Post.
Yes.
And I get that, and I've been down there on the Senate floor, and I see Democrats and Republicans are friends, but the bottom line is politics ain't beanbag, and they're going to be nice to you, but when it comes to what they're going to do and how they're going to vote and how they're going to run the place, they don't care.
I understand that perspective, but I've also been in the trenches and worked through very complex issues, and on occasion things that most critics said they'll never get anything done, and on occasion we have.
Yeah, but have you been in that situation and gotten it done that way when Democrats had control of every part of state government?
No, sir.
Right.
That's the key difference.
Yeah, that's why they don't care.
You didn't do this the past 4 years. Well, yeah, we had a split legislature, and we didn't have to resort to this level of political tactic.
Producer Shannon, you got that sound? You got that sound for us? Hit us up and let us hear what Chris Holbert had to hear.
You're supposed to bang the gavel now. Senator Owen Hill played a segment of that yesterday and was gavelled and told he was out of order and was in violation of the Senate rules, and then he presented the Senate rules, and actually the Senate rules say that we can use electronic devices in the well to present our ideas. And it was very frustrating, but yes, that is a clip of what it sounded like when the 5 machines were reading.
It's infuriating, and I'm still absolutely furious with Jeffco voters and Arapahoe voters and all of these people who gave Democrats the majority in the state Senate, knowing that a Democrat was going to be governor and that Democrats were going to keep the House. And all of this terrible stuff that's being done to this state right now by the Democrats, I'm sorry. It is the fault of all of you who just went and voted a straight Democrat ticket. I'm really pissed off. But anyway, let's talk about some issues. Let's talk about red flag. As long as we're talking about Leroy Garcia, there was a piece in the Denver Post yesterday, and I know you are not Leroy Garcia's brain. There's a piece in the Denver Post yesterday that said that Leroy Garcia hasn't made up his mind about red flag, and in the Senate, the Dems only have a 2-seat majority.
Correct.
If Leroy were to vote no, and as the president of the state Senate, that would certainly suggest a hint of permission for somebody else to vote no if they wanted to, that could kill red flag. Do you have a sense as to whether Leroy is actually on the fence or whether he's just trolling us and wants to make it sound like he's actually thinking about it?
I think you were right. I'm not President Garcia's brain. I would not presume to speak for him. I have said before that he voted no on the 2013 bill, the MAG ban, 1224, and he has put his name on bills that I've run to repeal that. He is fairly reasonable when it comes to the Second Amendment, and I am hopeful that he would be a no vote on that bill. Senator Garcia represents Pueblo. That was one of the recalled districts in 2013. Senator Angela Jaron was recalled, not Leroy, not President Garcia. And then the other district that was recalled was the then Democrat Senate President John Morris.
Right.
And now President Garcia is the president. So I pointed to this on opening day. I'm grateful that he's holding the gavel for his caucus because he is known as reasonable when it comes to the Second Amendment. He is thoughtful. He is in a district that President Trump won. He's in a district that was recalled, and he is the president. He has to be that balance for his caucus.
You know, it's funny. He served in the Marines.
Yes, he did.
And
thank you, President Garcia, for
your
service.
Thank you for your service. Absolutely. Semper Fi. And I would usually think that Marines would be more supportive of the Second Amendment than anybody who served in the military would be, even if they're Democrats, would be more supportive of the Second Amendment than the average Democrat. But it's not really the case. And we had Jason Crow on the show. He wants to take people's guns. I mean, he won't admit it in quite those words, but it's quite frustrating. I'll tell you what. So Chris Holbert's going to stick around for another segment, and we're going to start digging into some other issues. One thing I want to ask you about when we come back, Chris, is the bill to repeal the death penalty.
Yes.
And what I'm going to ask you when we come back is, do you think that that's something the legislature should deal with, or should it go to a vote of the people? We'll be right back.
This report is sponsored by Hampton by Hilton.
You've got a ramp closure westbound C470 at Santa Fe that's going to be somewhat of an inconvenience. Beyond that, it's an easy drive on the metro area freeways. No problems on I-25 through the Tech Center. Section Lakewood's looking good along with I-225. There's no issues. There's nothing slowing you down on 36 between here and Boulder. The ride out to the airport is good on Pena Boulevard. Traveling up into the high country, it's going to be a different story. You've got wintry driving conditions along the I-70 corridor with chain restrictions in place from Vail to Copper Mountain, Silverthorne to Bakerville and US 6 Loveland Pass. Check out forecast. It's going to be cloudy and cold today with snow, a high of 38, tonight low of 22. Currently, it's 42. With traffic and weather, I'm Gary Elbaugh, 630 KHOW.
Family reunion in Paris? Turns out to be in Paris, Texas? No worries. You know you can stay at Hampton by Hilton with more than 2,400 locations and free hot breakfast. Book now at Hampton.com.
This is just an incredible thing. As a guy who's been following financial markets since the 1980s, to see a stock market this strong, unemployment this low, and yet interest rates this low is something I've never seen before. And if you had told me, several years ago that we would have a 10-year note around, 2.6 to 2.7% with the Dow close to 26,000, I would have said that's extremely unlikely. I'm smart enough not to say it's impossible, but I would have said it's really unlikely, and yet here we are. And that means while most people have good jobs or the opportunity to get a better job, you also have the opportunity to borrow cheap money to buy your first home or your second home or an investment property. And normally those economic things don't go together. When you're ready to do it, talk to American Financing. They'll get you into the mortgage, 303-695-7000, or online at americanfinancing.net.
NMLS 182334, regulated by the Division of Real Estate.
At CDW, we get that you need a network that keeps your business moving forward.
Us for not. Backwards everything, do we?
Either way, CDW has experts who can design and implement a secure, innovative network built on Cisco DNA that learns and adapts to your needs to keep your business moving forward.
Idea good as that.
IT orchestration by CDW. It get who people. People who get it. Find out more at cdw.com/Cisco.
Copays, codes, coupons. Searching for savings on prescriptions is so complex, it's like you need a doctorate degree. Fortunately, CVS Pharmacy employs thousands who have one, our pharmacists. Plus, we built a proprietary search tool to help them find you savings on prescriptions. You don't need to know all of that complicated stuff. You just need to know someone who does. Your friendly doctor of pharmacy at your local CVS. Savings vary. Not all patients eligible for savings. Ask pharmacist for details.
Looking for ways to save with your Medicare plan? Walgreens is a preferred network pharmacy with many plans nationwide, which could mean lower copays for you. So bring your prescriptions to a Walgreens pharmacy today to start saving. Walgreens, trusted since 1901. Walgreens participates as a preferred network pharmacy with United Healthcare, Cigna HealthSpring, and Express Scripts Medicare. For a complete list of available plans, please contact 1-800-MEDICARE. TTY users should call 1-877-486-2048. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, or consult www.medicare.gov. Other pharmacies are available in our network.
Filling an opening at your company means more than just finding an employee. You're looking for a fit, a match. Robert Half understands that. We know you need someone who can do the work, someone who complements your culture. And of course, you need that someone fast. When it all comes together, it makes for a perfect fit. Satisfaction guaranteed. Robert Half, the matching experts in accounting, finance, IT, legal, marketing, and administrative staffing. Visit roberthalf.com/radio for more information.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
Mike Capel here, serial entrepreneur. Patriot Software provides cloud-based accounting software that is super easy for business owners and powerful enough for accountants. With Patriot's accounting software, business owners can easily invoice customers, receive payments, pay bills, and track the money in and out of their company without needing a college degree in accounting. And with Patriot Software's patent-pending cash-to-accrual toggle switch, the business's accountant can log in, view the books, and make complex entries to ensure the business has accurate financial statements. Easy but powerful. Everybody wins. Go to PatriotSoftware.com, use promo code RADIO, and get 2 months of accounting software free. That's PatriotSoftware.com.
With PatriotSoftware.com, accounting and payroll, keep your time and money.
You know, if somebody you care about is struggling with alcoholism, one thing that I hope you know, while it's not necessarily your responsibility, unless maybe it's your child, then it's probably your responsibility. But generally, you're talking about adults. It's not your responsibility, but you want to help. You care about them. You love them. Maybe a member of your family. Maybe a work colleague that you're really close to. Maybe an old friend. Most people who struggle with addictions, and particularly alcoholism, don't realize until quite far into the problem that they have a problem, and it might be either too late to get them help or they've already done themselves a lot of harm. Get help as soon as you can for that person you care about. I want you to learn more at GoSober.org. It's an alcohol treatment program that works differently. It really, really works. GoSober.org.
Our 2019 iHeartRadio Music Awards. Alicia Keys, Ariana Grande, Garth Brooks, Halsey, John Legend, Casey Musgraves, Taylor Swift, and more.
Watch and see who wins at our iHeartRadio Music Awards tomorrow night at 7 on Fox 31.
They say nobody will hand you your dreams. Well, now that Taco Bell delivers through Grubhub, you can get your dreams handed right to you. Tacos, crunch wraps, chalupas, delivered straight to your door. Taco Bell Delivery. It's your taco dreams, delivered by Grubhub.
The black boxes from the Ethiopian Airlines jet that crashed Sunday will be sent somewhere in Europe for analysis. Work to identify remains of the 157 people killed has not started yet.
The airline's CEO saying Boeing should ground the plane model involved, the 737 MAX 8, until it's established that it's safe. Authorities in Europe and Asia have already issued bans, but US officials have declined to follow suit. Boeing insists it has full confidence in the plane's safety. The Ethiopian crash was the second involving a 737 MAX 8 in the past 5 months.
Fox's Simon Owen. There's a winter storm hitting the middle of the country.
This could be one of the strongest storms they have experienced across the Plain States. It's got everything associated with it. Blizzard conditions, heavy rainfall, and wind gusts that could do tremendous damage.
Fox meteorologist Janet Steen. This is Fox News.
This is Denver's talk station, 630 KHOW, an iHeart radio station. With Russ Kaminsky Mornings, Sean Hannity at 1, KHOW, Denver.
From the Fox Business Network, orders for expensive manufactured things rose in January. The increase in durable goods orders was 0.4%, led by orders for commercial airplanes. Prices at the wholesale level rose 0.1% in February, a tame reading that should calm concerns about inflation. Over the year ending in January, producer prices rose just 1.9%. Fewer people were applying for a mortgage or to refinance a home last week. The Mortgage Bankers Association says there was a decline even though mortgage rates were more affordable. Canada's Aurora Cannabis is bringing on a major Wall Street figure as an advisor. Hedge fund manager Nelson Peltz, founder of Trian Fund Management. And Build-A-Bear lost money in its holiday quarter as surprise. The company says its North American business was weaker, partly because of the loss of Toys R Us. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Ginny Cosola.
When weather hits, the right wiper blades make all the difference. That's when the Michelin Man is on your side, helping you see better and drive safer with new Michelin Premium Wiper Blades. Designed with exclusive SmartFlex technology or frameless beam design, Michelin blades flex to the curve of your windshield, giving you unparalleled, streak-free, long-lasting, all-season performance. So when the going gets tough, be ready with Michelin Premium Wiper Blades. It's a difference you can see. Available at Walmart, Pep Boys, Amazon, and other fine retailers.
Do roller coaster stock markets make you nervous? With such frequent ups and downs, don't let market volatility derail your retirement. Hi, I'm Linda Gardner, host of Your Money, Your Retirement, Saturday on 630 KHOW. If you're concerned about the markets, call today to schedule a complimentary review of your portfolio. Call 720-488-8604. That's 720-488-8604. Or online, yourmoneyyourretirement.com.
Are you feeling lucky?
Well, you are, because Boyer's Coffee is fresh, Colorado crafted, and delivered weekly to your local grocery store.
This report is sponsored by Staples.
Blizzard warning in effect today with snow and a high in the mid-30s. Snow tonight with a low in the mid-20s. Breezy. Chance of snow tomorrow with a high in the mid-30s.
Staples has the supplies you need to run your business like a boss. Now save $100 on the Epson EcoTank 4750 printer with up to 2 years worth of ink included. Plus, trade in your old printer in store and save an additional $50 while supplies last. Ends 3/16/19. Staples.
630 KHOW, an iHeart radio station.
All right, let's get in as much as we can here with State Senator Chris Holbert, minority leader in the state Senate. Wish he were the majority leader or Senate president or something, but he's not. Not just because he and I agree on a lot of things, but also because the fact that he's not means that Democrats have full control of the state government, and they sure are acting like it. One of the things that Democrats are looking at, Chris, is a end to the death penalty in the state of Colorado. Yes. This despite there actually being a couple of fairly prominent state House Democrats who are in favor of the death penalty, and also a handful on both sides of Democratic Catholics in the state legislature for whom the death penalty is a complicated issue and gets into things way beyond politics, or Republicans who also, I guess it's more of a thing for Republicans where they might want to get rid of the death penalty. But my big question for you is this an issue that is appropriate for the legislature, or do you think that this should go to a vote of the people, and why?
I would like to see the people have a say in this, because this is either a deterrent to first-degree murder in our society or it isn't. And I think this is at the level where the voters rightly should have an opportunity to weigh in. The legislature certainly has the authority, and our legislature has been curtailed far more than the federal legislature, Congress, and more than most states. But there's so many people who live in Colorado now who weren't here when those changes were made through the ballot process and people voting, that most people don't know the
What was curtailed?
Well, back in 1988, for instance, 72% of the people who voted in November of 1988 supported a constitutional amendment called Gavel, give a vote to every legislator. And the populist pitch was every bill that's introduced must have a hearing. It's a public hearing. People can come have their voice heard. And 72% of the voters, I voted that year. I don't specifically remember Gavel, but I'm sure I voted yes.
Mm-hmm.
The downside is traditional legislative tools, tactics had to be eliminated. For instance, pocket veto. So the bill sponsor, the president of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, they can't just say, "Nah, I don't want to hear that bill." If a bill's introduced in Congress and assigned out to a committee, Representative Maxine Waters now is the chairman of the House Financial Service Committee. And if Chair Waters doesn't like a bill, she doesn't have to hear it. We can't do that in Colorado. So there are a lot of changes. Term limits. I hear people say, we got to have term limits. We've had term limits for years. Back in, I think it was 92 or 3 or so, the people voted to approve term limits.
So how does that play into the death penalty issue?
Right now, my point was that our state legislature, I think constitutionally and statutorily, does have the authority to address this, but my preference would be allow the voters ultimately to decide on that. To your prior observations, I want to give a shout out to Senator Rhonda Fields. That's a name that people who support the Second Amendment and oppose the 2013 gun control bills, there's a lot of people out there who just viscerally do not like Senator Fields. On the death penalty, I think she's a hero. She stood up to then Governor Hickenlooper and said no. And the story behind Senator Fields is that her son was assassinated on the streets of Denver, and his body was dumped in the district that I now represent. I am just impressed beyond words about Senator Fields' stand on that, regardless of where her party is, regardless of where a governor of her party has been. She is just fearless on that issue, and the stories that she relates about going to the court with her daughter and working through that process of trying the people who assassinated her son, that's impressive. So thank you, Senator Fields.
Has that bill been voted on in the Senate yet?
It went to committee. I believe that it is on the second reading calendar in the Senate, and that it has been postponed, or not, I shouldn't say postponed, but laid over is the term, in order to get to the oil and gas bill.
Do you think that any Republicans would vote to end the death penalty any state Senate Republicans would vote to end the death penalty in Colorado?
You mentioned the complexity, I think, for people who have the Catholic faith. I think there might be some who are struggling with that. I see it as I am pro-life at birth, but the one thing that I see that a person would lose their life and be subject to capital punishment is if you murder someone in the first degree. Then it really is a question for society of, will we take your life from you because you took someone else's life? That's the basis of liberty. I am free, you are free to make decisions as long as our decisions in our life don't affect negatively the other.
A listener asks me by text, how do you think about the oil and gas bill in the context of voters having soundly rejected restrictions on oil and gas just in November?
I pointed that out on my opening day speech. It's a fascinating dynamic that the majority of voters last November said no to Proposition 112, and yet that same body of voters elected Jared Polis to be our governor. No offense to him, but that is just objective fact. Now that we have legislation, and supporters of Senate Bill 181 say this isn't 112, this is different. I think opponents to 112 say, no, this is very much the same, and maybe you're using different words to describe the same things. For instance, what's the difference between setbacks and siting? I think some people find a great similarity to that, and supporters of the bill say, no, this is completely different.
I think the bill is very different from 112 and much, much worse.
I agree with you, and my wife and I were married in '86. We bought our first house in southeast Denver. It was a townhouse in '87. Within about 2 years, half of our development approximately went into foreclosure, and we lost a huge amount of value. We stayed in our home, we made our payments, and we eventually sold that for a very small profit in '92. Why did that happen in the late '80s? If you didn't live here, it's because we had an oil and gas bust, and those high-rise towers in downtown Denver started to clear out. Unemployment went up. Property values, commercial and residential, went down. It was a horrible time in Colorado, not just Metro Denver. And when I first saw 181, my personal response was this is really recession by legislation. Don't do this. And I think people who don't like, quote unquote, big oil, please be thoughtful. 40% of the office space, commercial office space in downtown Denver, I'm told, is occupied by either oil and gas or law firms or companies that provide service to that industry. Millions, tens of millions of dollars probably go into, well, I should qualify this, is not true for every school district. We have 178 school districts, but understand the role of severance taxes that are taxes collected on oil and gas that come out of the ground. It used to be more coal, but how does that affect your school district? And understand this isn't just about Weld County or Mesa County, rural counties where holes are put in the ground for oil and gas. This is Denver, Jefferson, Arapahoe, Douglas. This is the Metro Denver area where those people who work downtown and either are in that industry or provide service to that industry, that's 40% of those office towers downtown. And if they start clearing out and going to Texas or North Dakota or somewhere else, that has a huge impact on our economy as a whole. And it's not a matter of just retraining people and finding new things for people to do. This would be a wholesale change to our economy. And we went through that in the late 80s. Please don't do that again.
You know, Chris, I have the sense that, here, let me back up for a second. I'm a longtime champion of representative government, and I believe elections have consequences, and I don't really believe in direct democracy and putting everything on the ballot and all this kind of thing. But I do believe that representatives have at least a little bit of duty to represent. And I really think that a lot of what the Democrats are doing right now with red flag, oil and gas, national popular vote,
sex ed,
death penalty, sex ed, and I think I'm missing one, are all things that the voters would reject if the voters could vote on them.
Well, we did see that with 112.
Red flag, borderline. I don't know what voters would do on that. The other ones I think voters would reject.
I think red flag is similar to 2013 when we heard the phrase universal background checks. And polling, whatever this polling was, shows that a majority support it. But when you start talking with people about what the bill actually does and get away from the slogan, for instance, on universal background.
I'll tell you what. Can you stick around for a few more minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, because I'm a little late on a break. Hit a short break here, and we're going to come back and finish out the hour with State Senator Chris Holbert, and we'll continue right where he left off, talking about all of these issues, including red flag, and whether the Democrats are just doing what they want or representing the people. We'll talk about it right after this, and right after I tell you about. I know it's a weird thing to talk about a toothbrush right on the air, but think about this. A toothbrush is something that you use, or at least you should use, because I tell my daughter to use hers, every single day, maybe twice a day. Some people probably even more than that. And so you really want a toothbrush that is as easy to use and as effective as possible, and that is exactly what the Quip toothbrush is, which is why a few days after I tried my first Quip toothbrush, I got rid of the other electric toothbrush that I had because the Quip is superior. Then I bought my wife one, and I really think you'll dig it too. It uses these sonic vibrations that get your teeth really clean. It has a built-in timer that kind of helps guide you to make sure that you brush your teeth for the right amount of time. They send you new brush heads on the dentist recommended schedule of a new brush head every 3 months for just $5. But if you go to getquip.com/khow and sign up, you get your first refill pack for free with a Quip electric toothbrush, which, by the way, starts at just $25. So do that today, if you would, getquip.com/khow and get your first refill pack for free.
It's the new Dan Caplis Show. Afternoons 4 to 6.
Wednesday at 4, we will be riding the storm out together. Hopefully, you'll be doing it from the comfort of your home, because if they're right about the forecast, this thing's going to be vicious. You don't want to be anywhere on the roadway. Plus, it'll make it easier for me to get here. And Tucker Carlson in the eye of the storm, should he apologize for some unfortunate comments. Wednesday at 4.
I should have had Done Right do it. Don't be that person that says this after ordering your remodeling project, right, Dad?
You've got that right, Todd. Hi, folks. Dan Cicchini, owner of Done Right Kitchens and Baths, Windows and Doors. Simply put, we make people happy. Ever since the 80s, we've proven ourselves by being picky. Tell the folks, Todd.
Well, there's only one way we'll resurface cabinets. 1/4 inch, glued and nailed. Replacement kitchens, only custom-built cabinets by our own people for a fabulous look. bathrooms? You can count on the tried and true Done Right bathroom renovation system. And windows and entry doors? Dad, how about your 2 cents worth?
Well, it starts with a quality window or door, yes, but I'm here to tell you that preparation, installation, and finish are exactly why they'll be able to join those that say, done right, did right by me. So folks, whether it's kitchens, baths, counters, or floors, or even replacement windows and doors, as always, you have our word. We'll treat you right at Done Right. 303-722-2295, 800-362-8370, or drhi.com.
If you want a free instant online quote on a new air conditioner or furnace, go to PriceFixerDenver.com. PriceFixerDenver.com. Whether you need a new system or just service, these guys have transparent pricing and no trip charges. They have the lowest price guarantee and a 100% satisfaction guarantee. They don't pay their certified techs on commission. They sell the #1 furnaces and ACs in the country and service all brands. Check them out at PriceFixerDenver.com. PriceFixerDenver.com.
Hi, Money Editor Pat Woodard here to tell you about an incredible opportunity with Mosquito Joe. A seasonal business you can operate from a home or office, Mosquito Joe specializes in outdoor, residential, and commercial mosquito, tick, and flea control. Realize your dreams of owning your own business, one that has you out and about and making outside fun again in our community. Mosquito Joe is an award-winning franchise opportunity and has been ranked #1 in the pest control category on Entrepreneur's Franchise 500 list for the past 3 years, with low startup costs plus training and support, including best-in-class systems. Enjoy a recurring revenue model and work-life balance, providing a service that's always in demand and making a difference in your customers' lives. Exclusive territories in the Denver area are available right now. Call 855-JOIN-JOE or visit MosquitoJoeFranchise.com to explore your opportunity with this fun and memorable brand. Mosquito Joe, 855-JOIN-JOE or MosquitoJoeFranchise.com.
Need help navigating the complexities of Medicare? If you're a United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan member, you can take advantage of one-on-one support. With United Healthcare, you have help to guide you through the healthcare system. They can answer your Medicare-related questions, help schedule appointments, and make it easier for you to get the care you need when you need it. Go ahead, take advantage of your United Healthcare Medicare Advantage plan. Learn more at AdvantageUHC.com.
Don't wait until your AC breaks down in the middle of summer. Go ahead and get an AC cleaning now. Your AC is a complex bit of machinery. It has to be serviced just like your car does. Right now, get that AC serviced for just $59 from Fix It 24/7. This is no standard cleaning. These guys get every bit of dirt and grime. They check all your wiring. They make sure everything is running perfectly to keep you cool this summer. Visit FixMyHome.com. That's FixMyHome.com to schedule your $59 air conditioning cleaning today.
You know, if you, like me, as a guy, actually this happens with women too, but mostly guys, losing hair like towards the front of your head, top of your head, but still have a lot of hair on the back of your head, I want you to get over to Dr. Broadway's clinic and just have a free consultation to learn about the NeoGraft hair restoration procedure and also the special deal that I arranged for my listeners. I could not be happier. Saw a friend of mine yesterday who hadn't seen me in a few months. He said, man, your hair looks great. Do you have product in there? No product in there. That's just what my hair, it just looks good now. Thanks to NeoGraft. I want you to learn more yourself at denverhairrestoration.com.
Ask Alexa to play 630 KHOW on iHeartRadio. Then you can hear The Sean Hannity Show. Weekdays 1 to 4.
Getting 630 KHOW from iHeartRadio.
If Denver's talking about it, you'll hear it on 630 KHOW.
All right, I have just a few minutes left with State Senator Chris Holbert, the minority leader in the state Senate, the head of the Republicans in the state Senate. And you were making an interesting comparison between, I think the way I would broadly word it is a generic polling question where you might get one answer, yes, and how that answer can change when you actually inform people about the details of a bill. For example, Alec Garnett was waving around polling that said 60% of Republicans were in favor of red flag. And I said, well, yeah, until you tell them what's actually in your bill.
Yep. So if we look back to 2013, there was a bill for so-called universal background checks. And I suppose if you went out and polled people, do you support universal background checks on firearm purchases or transfers? A lot of people would say yes. Okay, well, in Colorado law, if you are a yes on that, you think you support universal background checks, we need to understand what's actually in the law. And what's actually in state law, a bill that passed in 2013, a parent can give a child a firearm as a gift. So the first 22 rifle for Christmas or something like that. And I think most people would say, yeah, I like that. You don't have to have a background check for a parent to give a gun to a child. Okay, should a step-parent be able to give a firearm to a stepchild? And I think most people would say, well, yeah, they're still parents. Well, state law allows a parent to give a gun to a child as a gift, but it doesn't allow a step-parent to give a stepchild a gun for a gift. So do you support that? And I think when we get the red flag, people say, yes, we need to do something to help people who are in distress and demonstrating alarming, concerning behavior. Okay. Do you support a bill that empowers government to come with no notice and search your home for property that they may not actually know that you have? Reminder, we don't have gun registration, so there's no way for the government to actually know whether you have firearms or how many you have or where they are. So do you really want to empower government to come to your door and conduct a search with no notice? And you may not know who said you did something wrong.
Right.
Your accuser. You don't.
Yeah.
You
Could
don't
be
even
someone
know.
you had a bad date with.
Possibly, but it just seems that people are quick to embrace these slogans, and it's like, well, wait a minute, you need to understand what this actually does, not just the slogan. And we hear the polling numbers based on slogans generally.
Right, and I don't know whether anyone will spend the time and money to poll on any of this. And the other thing, I mean, I've said some version of this repeatedly throughout our conversation today. I don't think the Democrats care. I think most of these controversial bills, they know would be rejected by voters if voters had a chance to vote on them. So I have a question for you, actually. I was talking with a friend of mine who I won't name, but you know him, who in a certain way is kind of admiring of what the Democrats do. He's not a Democrat. But, like, you know, if we, the Republicans, had full control of everything, yeah, we'd institute our agenda and do whatever we could to wreck the Democratic Party while we were at it. And the Democrats are doing it to us, and that's the result of an election. What do you think?
Years ago, early 2000s, the Colorado Democracy Alliance, CODA, and people will recognize the blueprint. I think one of the fundamental things that the organizers of that effort did was they agreed and understood clearly, and they do not ever forget, that in order to have 100% of the power, they only need a simple majority of the seats. So a simple majority in the House is 33 of 65. If they get there or more, they have a majority. 18 or more of 35 seats in the Senate and one governor's office, and they have that. They have 41, 19, and 1, and we can't stop them. The only thing we can do is slow them down and have bills read at length.
Well, I'm glad you're doing what you can do, and for the record, actually, let me just take a moment and re-emphasize that. I think it's really important for Republican voters, even though I'm not one, to see that you guys are fighting hard for principles, for good policy, for the Republican base. And I'm glad you're doing whatever you can do, not just to slow them down, but the fact that you're doing this to slow them down gets more attention to the fact that they're trying to jam all this stuff down our throats. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. Thank you, Russ.
State Senator Chris Holbert, Senate Minority Leader representing most of Douglas County?
Half of Douglas County.
Half of Douglas County. We'll be back with a different senator. Senator Ron Johnson from the great state of Wisconsin joins me next.
This is Denver's Talk Station, 630.